Welcome to This Week in Hastings Headline History, where we take a look back at what was making news around Hastings and St. Johns County, Florida, over a century ago. These are stories directly out of the pages of the Hastings Herald, which was published weekly in the early 1900s. It's fascinating to hear what they were talking about, as well as how they spoke in their articles from over 100 years ago. So sit back and enjoy, as this week we go back to the stories that were the talk of the town in 1920. Frank Folsom falls 18 feet. Frank Folsom, a winter resident of Federal Point, was painfully, though not dangerously, injured Tuesday afternoon when a staging on which he was at work fell, dropping him nearly 18 feet to the ground. He suffered a dislocated shoulder and numerous sprains and bruises. Mr. Folsom was at work shingling the rectory in company with John Tenney Brown, who will occupy the house when the repair work has been completed. Mr. Folsom had just dragged a bundle of shingles up on the staging when the ladder collapsed. Mr. Folsom struck the ground on his head and one shoulder, the fact that much of his weight was fendered by his shoulder probably having saved him from a broken neck. Caught without dogs. In St. Augustine, Sheriff E. Boyce and Chief Deputy Raymond Sabate had a merry Wednesday afternoon for a man by the name of Henry Jackson, who's alleged to have struck another man with an axe and left him for dead. The near tragedy, near because the man attacked recovered consciousness and reported the assault to officers, occurred in the neighborhood of what is known as Irwin Farm near Tocoi. The officers were informed the man was headed this way and decided to catch him without the use of bloodhounds. After eluding the officers several times and being within sight of them once or twice, Jackson finally walked into the arms of the sheriff, who called to Mr. Sabate, "I've got him." The man was lodged in the county jail and will be given a hearing before County Judge G.W. Jackson. A new building going up here. A fine addition to the buildings in the business section of this town will be constructed this month on the vacant lot between the Killingsworth Building and the Friar Garage by G.W. Waller. The new building will be of the truss-con type, will be of steel construction with concrete block front, having fireproof roof and wire glass windows, and being fireproof throughout. It will have a street frontage of 25 feet and will extend 100 feet back into the lot. If conditions warrant, Mr. Waller plans to add 50 feet to the length of the building at some time in the near future. As soon as the building has been completed, Mr. Waller will move his offices from their present location in the Hughes Building. In addition to his offices, the new building will be used as a sales room for automobiles, potato diggers, graders, and other machinery for which he is the local agent. Drainage system develops rapidly. Great progress in the work of constructing the local drainage system was indicated by reports read before the annual meeting of the Hastings Drainage District Thursday morning. The reports of the various officials left little doubt that the entire system will be completed well within the time allowed by the contract. And here's an interesting article about what was an event to behold at the time. Demonstrated new engine. Mr. Daintz and Walton, representatives of the Pearson gas engine, spent Thursday in Hastings demonstrating the new engine and its advantages when used in connection with potato diggers. The engine is different in many respects from any engine used for similar purposes in this section, and was inspected with marked approval by many local farmers. The two representatives plan to return to Hastings early in January, at which time they will give a thorough demonstration of the new engine and will also demonstrate a potato picker which has recently been perfected. Arrangements have been made for holding the demonstration on a local farm under actual potato season conditions, and all farmers will be invited to attend. And an article bragging of the national spotlight being put on Hastings. Great potato industry of Hastings gets into Saturday Evening Post. Ooh la la! Hastings has busted plumb into the pages of the great and only Saturday Evening Post, which this week is publishing an article entitled Your Potatoes and devoting a couple of columns to what the author says is the way we grow potatoes in this section. There seems a little doubt that the author speaks with authority, for the accuracy of his article proves he must have at least been acquainted with a man who went through here once on his way to Miami for the winter. Excerpts from the article are as follows. And planting time has come in the Hastings district. Lying 15 miles from the warm ocean and tucked in between the ocean and the jungled St. John's River, men are working on their hands in the rich black soft earth, putting potatoes to sleep in the sunshine. These potatoes, some of which are cut into pieces, others planted whole, have come down from the north with the birds. Many of them have come clear from Maine, which by this time may be covered with snow. Keep your eyes on these Florida potato farmers, for here is about the classiest farming you will ever see. This is hothouse farming done outdoors. There is very little machinery used here. The potatoes that will grow here will be aristocrats, handmade potatoes, expensive and rare like handmade lace or hand-carved marbles. The black earth is piled into high ridges across the carefully drained field. Into a bed along top of these ridges, the Florida farmers plant a fertilizer that costs $30 a ton, and they use a ton an acre. Expenses don't count down here. The money will all come back. The field, after they place the fertilizer, is black stripes of earth with white hairlines of fertilizer. And then in the ridge along the white lines are placed the seed potatoes from the north. The earth is turned over the seeds and the fertilizer. The field becomes all black again, and the potato from the north starts its work of multiplying itself while we shiver up in its home district. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Hastings Headline History. This podcast was brought to you by Presenting the Past, bringing history back to the present through historic presentations and the sale of treasures from days gone by. This episode was written and produced by me, Michelle Murillo, with the aid of vintage copies of the Hastings Herald. Now it's time for a holiday musical memory, where we learn a little more about a Christmas song we all know that was written centuries ago. This Christmas classic is over 200 years old. It was written by a priest named Joseph Moore, who was out for a walk on a quiet night around Christmas in 1816 when the inspiration to write the words hit him. It would be 2 more years before his choir director, Franz Xavier Gruber, put it to music, and the pair first performed the song outside the St. Nicholas Parish in Obendorf, Austria. It was heard by a traveling organ repairman working at the church. He took the song to his home village, where a couple of traveling folk-singing families heard it and added it to their repertoire. The song began to travel the world and over time was translated into more than 300 languages. It's been called the most popular Christmas song of all time. It's even known as the song that stopped a war, as during World War I on Christmas Eve, English, French, and German soldiers all stopped firing to sing it together, each in their own language. Its original name is Stille Nacht in German, but let's listen to the English version, this one from 1917. It's Silent Night, performed by Alma Gluck and Paul Reimers.